Hey guys, I am Dad Hippie, and welcome to another video of my own. Like I promised on Monday, I didn't do anything yesterday because I was working on some of the new songs that I want to be writing lyrics for, and already trying to match where I want words to go in those songs I already have written. But, as promised, I have a list. Another top 10 list. This one, rather nerdy, is my favorite Star Wars games of all time. And I know some of you have played some Star Wars games that are really great, fantastic. Not all of them are going to be on this list because there are way more Star Wars games than just 10. So, without any further ado, I'm going to read the list and give an explanation of why these are my favorites. Alright, so beginning at number 10 is Star Wars The Force Unleashed, because I rather liked it because it was an interesting way to introduce the idea that Darth Vader was already plotting against the Emperor, because that sudden twist at the end, going back to the light side and killing the Emperor, didn't make sense. The sudden twist at the end, of course, everyone knows, it's the sixth movie. I know he's saving his son, but he had to have already been plotting against the Emperor, because Sith ways is the apprentice eventually surpasses the master. So, and I really like The Force Unleashed because of the reversed hand grip style, which, if you guys don't know, before Vader had the secret apprentice in Galen Marek, Anakin had a Padawan named Ahsoka, who also used the reverse hand grip style. So it was a very interesting way to make them seem connected, like they were trained the same way or something. Alright, moving on. Number 9 is Republic Commando. I like this because it was a very interesting way to have a view of the Clone Wars from one of the clones. So you're sitting there, it's a small commando task force of about 4 people. The game is playable with 1 to 4 characters of players, and every character has a different set of abilities and skills, and it's very, very interesting. And the tutorial didn't seem like a tutorial at the time. Now, looking back at it, it's very obvious it was a tutorial. But it was a very fun way to play through the Clone Wars as one of the clones. Next is, at number 8, is Rogue Squadron 2. And the reason why I like this game, and the reason why Rogue Squadron 1 isn't on here, is because of the fact that almost all the Rogue Squadron 1 maps were in Rogue Squadron 2. You could play through them in Rogue Squadron 2. And it was really fun to fly around and tie up the AT-AT's legs. Very fun. Alright, moving on. 7. Star Wars The Old Republic, the online game that was just released recently. I know I seem like a fanboy over this game a lot, but it's clearly not very high on my list. It's very good. I just wish it could have been better, like a higher difficulty system, something more along the lines of the first couple MMOs Star Wars tried to place out a long time ago, but not in a galaxy far, far away. It was just, there could have been so many more room for improvement in the Old Republic, which is why it's not any higher on my list. Moving on, number 6 is Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. The reason why I like this is because when I read the comic books, Jaden Korr was one of my favorite characters in the new Jedi Order that Luke set up, and this game actually lets you play as Jaden Korr. Him going to the academy, him fighting all these people, and it stuck very close to the comic books, and I liked that about it. It's a very fun game. It is, in fact, kind of old, but even now I can still play it and it not feel like an old game, because the combat system and the ability system and all that stuff, it holds up to the test of time, and it's very, very fun to do. It's probably one of the best games. And it was one of the first games that you could use light or dark side without it actually affecting your character at all, without any negative. And it was a very interesting concept that I really enjoyed, and it was fun. Alright, moving on to number 5, and this one may seem like a little kid's game, but it's Lego Star Wars. The 3, not the Clone Wars, but the one that had, the third one that came out that had both the first and the second, the original and the prequel trilogies. You know what I'm talking about. And I just liked that because I thought it was fun to fight Darth Vader as Anakin Skywalker. But I liked Lego Star Wars because it had a little cheesy sense of humor that I don't mind every now and then, and it was kind of cheeky and childish, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't care. But yeah, so that's number 5 on my list. Moving on to number 4 is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, and I like this game because it's that classic RPG sort of feel to it. It had some minor drawbacks to it that were not present in the first KOTOR, but KOTOR 2 had some glitches, and if the game got even a little bit scratched, T-poses could show up, which is the only reason why it's not higher on my list. But I really enjoyed the fact you get to see and react how Mitra Surik would react, and of course, if you know who that is, that's one of Revan's few friends from the Mandalorian Wars that actually survived without being corrupted. Okay, number 3 on my list is Star Wars Battlefront 2. The reason why the second one is on my list and not the first one, the second one had all the maps from the first one, plus more, and new classes and the ability to play as the Jedis. So, all in all, it was an improvement upon the Battlefront franchise, instead of what most sequels do and falling backwards. Okay, and then number 2 is Star Wars Knights of the Republic, KOTOR. You all know my favorite Force user in the entirety of Star Wars is Revan. The reason why is because through him and Bastila, through the centuries, the Skywalker line is born. It is direct fact in the comic books and the video games that the Skywalker line comes from the Shan line, which is Bastila and Satele from the New Old Republic game, and some others, which, of course, Satele Shan is Revan's granddaughter, if you don't know. Yeah, so Skywalker, Anakin, and Luke come from 2 extremely powerful Force bloodlines that merge together, and that's the reason why the Skywalker line is so powerful, and why Qui-Gon Jinn was convinced that Anakin was the one he was looking for, because of the fact that at a young age he had the same amount of metachlorians in his bloodstream as Qui-Gon Jinn did, and his command of the Force, he could already use it without realizing he was using it. If you look at Anakin, he uses it to help figure out problems in Episode 1 with the pod racing. He's already extremely intelligent, all because of the Force flowing through him. And that all stems from Revan, who, of course, at his young age, was beyond any of the Masters. He stopped the Mandalorian Wars, did this and that, and Revan was an all-around hero until he got corrupted by the Sith Emperor and came back, only in an attempt to save the Republic by conquering it, if that makes any sense. In Revan's mind, the Republic would fail if he didn't take over. So he was going to take over the Republic to save it from the Sith Empire. And of course, before I get on to my number 1, I've got a couple honorable mentions that didn't quite make it on the list. The first one was Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, where you play as Kyle Katarn on his quest to redeem himself for failing one of his best friends when she was killed by a Sith Lord. You play as him as he goes back to the Valley of the Jedi, reclaims the Force powers he once surrendered in order to hunt down the Sith Lord that murdered his, I think it was like his girlfriend or something like that, I don't know. But you play as Kyle Katarn as he struggles to remain a good guy while doing this terrible thing. And Luke is in the game as well. He's Kyle Katarn's best friend and yada yada yada. And at one point you run into Chewbacca and Han Solo, so, I mean, it's a very good game, and it ties in rather well with the movies. It kind of makes me upset that Disney decided to cancel all canon between video games and movie, because it would have been really cool to see Kyle Katarn, or maybe Jaden Korr, show up in this new movie. I know it's a little bit too much to hope for, considering they're video game characters that got a comic book spin-off, that got a book spin-off. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to hope for. My next honorable mention was Star Wars Battlefront, and the reason why this is on my honorable mentions list and not on my actual mentions is because this game was one of the first really overly fun Star Wars games to just play with a group of friends, because most of them you could only play by yourself or with another person, but this one you could play with 4 people either on the same team or against each other, and it was just probably hands down the most fun multiplayer game I've ever played, except for Halo, because Halo's fucking nuts. And finally, my last honorable mention is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. And the reason why this is on the honorable mentions is because it was the first Star Wars game I ever played. And that enough earned it an honorable mentions spot, as well as it was the first one where I got to pilot a ship successfully without crashing and burning and all the difficult maneuver things of other Star Wars games. Alright, finally, moving on to number 1. I know you guys aren't that excited because you don't give a damn about any of this, but Star Wars Galaxies. Any of you who don't know what this game is, stop watching my channel right now because I'm ashamed of you. Star Wars Galaxies was the most successful Star Wars MMO ever, because the difficulty behind it was so incredible when I first started playing. You chose to whether play for the Rebels or the Empire, and by choosing on that, you had to start out. You could not pick to be a Jedi to start out. You had to build your character from nothing all the way up before you could finally gain force powers and get a lightsaber, and it was so incredibly fun. And I played on the Empire and decided to not become a Sith because I was a bounty hunter that had all this awesome gear and rockets and a jetpack, and I had it was a laser vibro sword or something like that I gained from a Mandalorian, one of the last few Mandalorians in the galaxy. After I beat him in an honorable duel, he gave me his sword. So it was really cool. And anytime, the reason why this game was so much fun is anytime, if after you became a Jedi or a Sith, you flicked that lightsaber out, you became a homing beacon in the neutral territories for all the enemies that were nearby you. Because there were Empire territories, and there were Rebel territories, and then there were neutral territories. Like Tatooine is a neutral planet in the game, and that's where most people go because it's like the place where all the PvP and shit is. And when you get a really high level, you tend to stick on Tatooine, and you just kind of go back and forth and do all this stuff. And if you flicked out your lightsaber, if you were a Jedi, all of a sudden all the Empire knew exactly where you were, and they would converge on you and try and murder you. Or if you were a Sith, you flicked your lightsaber out, and all of a sudden all of the rebels knew where you were, and the smugglers and shit would try and kill you, and all the Jedis would come at you. And it was really fun. I had 2 Empire characters. I had my bounty hunter that literally, I didn't do any PvP anymore. I was in a PvP server with him, so literally the entire game was just PvP. So I didn't do any of the PvP events, and I had completed all my missions. I think I reached, I was 2 levels before max level. And so my fun and giggles was I'd get on that character and I'd hunt down all the noobs that just became Jedi, and they'd flick out their lightsaber to impress their friends, and all of a sudden I'd show up out of nowhere to be like, rocket. Because the Jedis couldn't block rockets. They could block blaster bolts and what was the other thing? It was like artillery slugs. They could block artillery, but they couldn't block rockets, and they couldn't block my flamethrower. They couldn't block my taser grenades or any of that other stuff. And I also had bolas too, so I could keep them in one spot for a little bit so I could blast them, because the bola would stun them even to where they couldn't deflect shit. So I'd use my bola, which had a DC rate of 20 that they had to get over to keep from being stunned, which isn't very high in that game, but a lot of people didn't boost their dexterity a lot. Most people they boost Constitution to have a lot of health, they boost your strength to do a lot of damage, but they ignored dexterity, which increases your defense, your reflex, to get past that. So most people had very low reflexes and couldn't get over that 20, so I'd bola them, and then all of a sudden I just waylay them with my dual pistols. So I killed a lot of Jedis. I claimed a lot of bounties on people, because there were bounty offices that you could go, and any high-ranking character on the other side, you could hunt them down and gain their bounty and get a lot of money. My bounty hunter actually had quite a hefty bounty on the rebel side, but no one could kill me. I think I only ever died with that character once, and that was right after I got my my Mandalorian saber, because I did do a PvP event before I reached almost max level, and I died in the PvP event, and in that specific PvP event, there were no respawns. So if you died, you could just watch your team as whether they lived or if they failed. So yeah, and I was actually the first one to, because I wanted to see how much damage that sword did, and it actually ended up killing 3 Jedis with it before a couple troopers came and killed me. Yeah, because that sword, while it does a lot of damage, and does damage like a lightsaber would, it can't deflect blaster bolts like a lightsaber does because it's just a sword. So, yeah. And switching weapons in that game was kind of difficult, but it was fun. And my second Empire character, I made a Sith as soon as I could. As soon as I got all my stats and my feats up to where I wanted them, and I built my lightsaber, and I donned my medium armor with a Sith robe cloak over it, so I still had quite a bit of defense. And almost none of the dark side powers are restricted by armor in that game, so it was really fun. So I could walk up to someone, I could just be like Sith lightning their ass to death. I could choke them, I could infect them with some kind of weird ass plague thing. I didn't understand that power. Apparently you use the dark side of the Force to enter their bodies and make them physically ill, and it's weird because it's like a stunning power. And then there was this other drain life, which you could take the life of your enemies, and that was really the only way a Sith could heal themselves, which really kind of sucked. And then, of course, Force Push, which was actually my first Force power. I upgraded all the way, because when a Jedi comes launching at you, they have the highest resistance to Force powers, except for Force Push. So you could throw their ass around all day, every day, and then throw your lightsaber at them while they're trying to come back at you, and then Force Push them and throw your lightsaber again. So my Sith was probably... he got hunted down a lot by a lot of troopers and smugglers on the other side team. I only ever died a couple times with them because I wasn't used to playing Sith. I was more used to my bounty hunter. But eventually, both of them became some of the top-ranking people in the Empire side. I wasn't too high up. I think my bounty hunter was number 9 in the top 20, and then my Sith was number 17 in the top 20. And they had weird names like Rakalian, and it's been about 10 years since I played, so yeah. But it was probably the most fun I ever had in an MMO to this day. And I've played a lot of MMOs. I've played a lot of low-ranking MMOs. You guys have seen some on my channel. I've played a lot of low-budget MMOs, but I've also played World of Warcraft when it first started, all the way up to, I think I got right before Cataclysm is when I stopped playing. And I was going to get back into it, and then I saw the pandas from Warcraft 2 and 3 in there as a playable race, and I was like, no! They're not supposed to be playable, damn it! No! But, yeah. So, I stopped playing Warcraft, and then I got into the Old Republic when I started playing on the beta that my dad got. And so, that was probably when I started to do some stuff, and I'm getting called by someone. 1 second. Yo. Let me go ask her.
Some French fries.
Me, I want a McDonald's. I want ketchup. Deal with it. And a drink. Dr. Pepper, no ice. Huh? I can't hear you. Oh, let me go ask. You're looking at my video. Do you want a drink?
Yes, I would love some Dr. Pepper.
Such a Dr. Pepper.
Thank you, Mommy.
It's actually mentioned.
Oh. Screw you, Billy.
Batman. No, screw you, Billy. I don't know. She didn't say. Yeah, she didn't say, so I mean, you gotta deal with it. Bye! My little brother asking what we wanted to eat and drink from McDonald's because they're out at Mason's baseball practice. But anyway, let me wrap this up real quick. Star Wars Galaxy, to this day, is still my favorite of all the Star Wars games because it holds the test of time. If you can find the computer with the ability to play it, because it is an older MMO, I'm not sure if you can still download it or not, but I don't even know if servers are still up for it, but if they were, I would totally get back on and start playing as my bounty hunter just to hunt down some Jedis. I stopped playing after they updated it for all the soft gamers to where you could become a Jedi or a Sith right off the bat. That kind of made me upset because I went through all that hard work to get my Sith, and then they released an update that allowed you to be a Jedi or a Sith right off the bat, which kind of upsetted me because the ones that start off the bat are obviously going to be better at playing their Sith or their Jedi because they've been going through the entire game as a Jedi or a Sith. And then they got rid of the little homing beacon thing, so it took forever to find a Jedi that was dumb enough to draw out his lightsaber. And the game started getting dumb, but it's still a great game. The events are awesome. The missions were lengthy and useful. They gave you useful stuff right off the bat, and it was all in all a very, very good game. If I still had it, I would be playing it constantly and you guys would never see me. But I don't, so I don't worry about it. Anyway, before we all leave, I want to show you something that I drew. This will be my outro piece once I figure out how to get it onto YouTube. But this is it. You like that? I added the middle finger because I realize I do that quite often. I think it embodies me. It's got my little... It's got Dad Hippie, which is my, of course, my YouTube name. That is my name. It really is. It's got my JD Lee, which is, of course, my signature that I put on all of my artwork that I do. I'm not quite a perfected artist, but I do weapons rather well. I draw as often as I can. And the middle finger is, of course, my favorite expression of all time. It just is. It's amazing. But as soon as I can figure out how to get this up on the internet and put it at the end of all my videos, I'll be doing that. And I'll probably start leaving annotations and shit at the end of my videos. I'm probably going to try and get an editing software on this computer as soon as possible. I might have to get that off the Microsoft Store. I'm not sure, because my computer is a Windows computer, so I mean... some things are difficult, but hey, I do what I can. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.